Tonight, an ancient discovery turns into a nightmare. A shocking truth is uncovered in the ice, and a scientific breakthrough takes a terrifying turn. It began as an ordinary research expedition. A team of scientists led by Dr. James Whitaker had been conducting an excavation in a remote region of Alaska, an area that had been covered in ice for thousands of years. Their mission was simple: collect core samples, analyze glacial shifts, and uncover any traces of prehistoric life. The location had long been of interest to geologists and archaeologists due to its deep layers of permafrost, which preserved history in a way that few places on Earth could. Any organic material buried in the ice could remain intact for thousands of years, untouched by decay. For weeks, the team braved extreme cold, carefully excavating the frozen tundra, drilling into the ice, and documenting every layer they uncovered. Their research focused on climate history, but they always knew there was a chance of stumbling upon something unexpected. Perhaps ancient animal remains or fossilized plant life preserved in the permafrost. But nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to find. On what seemed like just another routine day, Dr. Emily Carter, one of the lead researchers, noticed something unusual beneath the ice. A dark shape buried several feet down, deeper than anything they had found before. At first, she assumed it was a large rock, or possibly the remains of a prehistoric animal. But as she and the team carefully chipped away at the ice, they began to realize the shocking truth. This was not an animal. It was human. The team worked with surgical precision, slowly uncovering what appeared to be a perfectly preserved human body. Moments later, another form emerged, then another, and then a fourth. What lay before them was a sight none of them had ever expected. 4 human beings, frozen in time, their bodies so well preserved that even their clothing and facial features remained intact. The initial assumption was that these were prehistoric men, possibly dating back thousands of years. The excitement was palpable. If their theory was correct, this would be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the decade. Perfectly preserved bodies from an ancient time could provide unparalleled insight into early human life, their diet, their environment, and even their genetic makeup. Cameras were set up, detailed notes were taken, and every step of the excavation was documented. Carefully, the bodies were transported from the icy depths to a secured research facility where the thawing process would begin under controlled conditions. But that's when everything started to go wrong. Once the bodies arrived at the lab, the scientists took every precaution. Thawing something that had been frozen for thousands of years was a delicate process. Done too quickly, it could destroy critical biological evidence. But as the ice began to melt away, revealing more details of the bodies, an unsettling truth began to emerge. First, the scientists noticed something odd about the clothing. While it was aged and worn, it did not resemble primitive garments made from animal hides, as they had expected. Instead, the fabric seemed more advanced, more structured, suggesting that these individuals were not as ancient as they had initially believed. Carbon dating results confirmed their growing suspicions. Instead of being thousands of years old, the bodies were only around 70 years old, placing them somewhere in the mid-20th century. The realization sent a wave of confusion and dread through the team. These weren't prehistoric humans, they were much more recent. But the most disturbing discoveries were yet to come. As forensic examinations continued, the team found evidence that these individuals had not died of natural causes. Each body showed signs of severe trauma. fractured skulls, broken bones, and deep lacerations. Worse, there were peculiar markings on their skin, almost like burns, but not from fire. Dr. Whitaker and his team exchanged uneasy glances as they tried to piece together what had happened to these people. Further examination of the clothing provided another clue. The fabric, although damaged, bore faint markings that resembled military insignias. Forensic experts soon confirmed these individuals were not prehistoric men at all. They were soldiers. As the reality of the situation set in, one of the researchers made an even more chilling discovery. Under the fingernails of one of the frozen men were traces of blood and fibers, suggesting that he had fought desperately before his death. Another scientist, examining the bones, found evidence of surgical alterations, almost as if these men had been subjected to experiments. The weight of the discovery became too much to ignore. The lead scientist made the call. They contacted the authorities. Within hours, a team of government officials arrived, securing the research facility and taking over the investigation. Their presence was swift and absolute, their questions direct and urgent. Who had found the bodies? What had been uncovered? Who had seen the results? It didn't take long for declassified records to reveal the horrifying truth. These men were part of a classified Cold War experiment conducted in the 1950s S. During that era, as the United States and the Soviet Union raced to develop new technologies for warfare, experiments were conducted to study human endurance in extreme conditions. Volunteers, and in some cases individuals who were never given a choice, were sent into the Arctic wilderness as part of a secret survival program. The goal was to gather data on how the human body reacted to extreme cold, limited oxygen, and isolation. But something had gone horribly wrong. These men had never returned. According to the classified files, they had been sent out on a mission to test endurance, but there were no records of a retrieval effort. They had been left to die in the very conditions they were meant to help soldiers survive. Whether it was a tragic accident or something more sinister was never disclosed, and to this day, many details remain heavily redacted. The government took immediate custody of the remains, and the research team was instructed not to speak of what they had found. For the scientists, what began as an exciting archaeological discovery had turned into something much darker. They had uncovered a chapter of history that was never meant to be found. Questions remained. Had these men been deliberately abandoned? Was there more to the experiment than the files revealed? Why had the government never retrieved their bodies despite knowing where they had been sent? The case was closed as quickly as it had been opened. The facility was emptied, the evidence classified, and the site where the bodies had been found was left untouched. For Dr. Whitaker and his team, the experience left an unsettling truth. Sometimes, the past refuses to stay buried. And in the coldest places on Earth, secrets can remain hidden for decades, waiting for someone to uncover them. Would you have expected this discovery to take such a dark turn? What do you think really happened to these men? Let us know in the comments. And if you love real-life discoveries that leave you questioning everything, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, history's darkest secrets are buried where no one is supposed to find them.